Muela. Cecilia is going to join us in a bit, but we're here with our different guests. Today we have Jennifer Morris from the county of Riverside, and Jennifer runs a multi-agency task force on marijuana enforcement, and she's here to talk a little bit about it today.
Hi. Thanks for having me. So I am with the County of Riverside. I am the supervisor of the cannabis enforcement team. And I am currently, County of Riverside is the host of a multi-jurisdictional cannabis meeting. It started off kind of like a way for us to connect with other jurisdictions in the state of California. And it's kind of turned into some training. We do some training. We have it about every other month or every third month. And right now we have about 40 jurisdictions that do attend the Zoom meeting. It originally was a brainchild we thought of getting together with the different jurisdictions. Mm-hmm. And then COVID happened, which was a really great opportunity for us to open it up Zoom, and we can reach up into Northern California, into Central California, and down into the very most southern parts of California, and really learn from each other and learn what's working, learn what's not working, discuss anything, problems that we might be having, problems and trends that we might be seeing. And I really think that the more jurisdictions that we have, the more we're going to learn. We deal with outdoor grows, we deal with indoor residential grows, and we also deal with dispensaries, legal and illegal.
So I've had the opportunity to join some of these discussions, and they're awesome. And we realize how many different types of enforcement techniques there are. For example, in your jurisdiction, you use a lot of injunctions, where we use red tags in building code. So in being able to attend these, we get to learn a lot of the different methodologies of enforcement, which is awesome because some of us fall under planning, under building, under the police department. So there's so many ways to enforce this particular subject, because apart from the illegal dispensaries, is also the enforcement of legal dispensaries and legal grows and legal operations like that, correct?
Yes. So of course, California is a state that has embraced the legalization of cannabis. But that means that also there are the not legal market that are trying to benefit off of that. And so we have one foot in the door with the legal market, and we also have one foot in the door with the illegal market. So being able to address the illegal market helps protect the legal market. And that's what our ultimate goal is. Our ultimate goal is to enable that legal market to thrive and to really take over and become the dominant force rather than the illegal market.
Awesome.
And that has to do with addressing the bad players. And in the County of Riverside, we had a really bad dispensary problem. At this time, we really don't have dispensaries. I think that's because we are on a path to legalization. So the dispensaries are really, making sure that they're doing the right thing, so they don't want to get caught and removed from the list. But we have a large amount of outdoor grows that are illegal. Mm-hmm. High desert outdoor grows that are illegal. And so we have a process that we've been using. We, like you said, we do litigation. We like to sue the owners, where we can come in and really step in where law enforcement can't, is law enforcement can do a warrant, but they can't hold that property owner accountable because they have to show that the property owner has knowledge. The great thing about the civil law is that we can hold the property owner accountable for the nuisance that is occurring on his property. We have power that law enforcement does not. In the illegal cannabis world, we can have a much more far-reaching hand that will hold the players accountable, because of course, who is the accountable party? It's the owner. Yes, of course, we have owners that are truly victims, but in many of these illegal large-scale cannabis grows, the owner has purchased the property just for the use of growing illegal cannabis.
So Jennifer, I know we have a couple guests coming on, and Cecilia just joined us.
Hi, Cecilia.
Hi, Jen.
And so if somebody wanted more information on joining this meeting, how can they reach you?
Absolutely. You can email me. My email is Jen, Jen, Morri, Morri. They didn't have enough room for my entire name. So Jen Morri at rivco.org, RIVCO. So my email is JEN, M as in Mary, ORRI at rivco.org. And I'd love for you to reach out and come. I'm thinking of actually doing a separate meeting that would include other states and other jurisdictions, because I know that we can really learn and other jurisdictions can learn from us. I know that there are, as legalization of cannabis moves across the country into states that are just now having the legalization maybe for medical marijuana, you can learn from where we were 5 years ago. And I would love, I want to give the information for free. I would love to help you out and bring you so that you're starting the race at a much higher pace than having to learn from the mistakes that we had to learn from.
Awesome. And I've attended the training. Cecilia, I believe you did a training for them. And,
Yes.
I don't think I've done a training, but I can get down to.
Yeah, yes. I'm always looking for trainers. I'm always looking for people just to speak. I could talk about cannabis all day long.
So, well, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for having us.
And she is
Yeah.
here live at the KCO conference, so at the
Yes.
State Association, and she's spreading her wealth of knowledge with all our followers out there, all 10,000 of you, and we
Yes.
appreciate it. And yeah, reach out. And this is open for jurisdictions only, correct? Or is it open to anybody?
Well, we try to keep it for government. You can we'll talk to code enforcement. We'll talk to sheriffs and law enforcement. We'll talk to building and safety. We'll talk to whoever, is in the regulatory game, whether it be legalization or dealing with the illegal grows. I love to learn from people. So I learn from somebody every time I talk to them.
Awesome. Thank you, Jennifer.
Okay,
and
thank you.
for
Thank
joining
you for
us.
having me.
All right.
Thank
Thank you.
Thank you, Cecilia.
Bye, Jen. Have a good one.
Thank you.
All right. So our next guest is from Granicus, which is somebody to discuss short-term rentals. So we have a lot of people around. So here's our next guest.
Hello, everybody.
And who are you, young lady?
My name is Betsy Sachs, and I'm an account manager at Granicus, specifically on the host compliance team. So I work with short-term rentals and all of our current customers who are trying to address the short-term rental market, like Airbnbs and VRBOs in their jurisdictions.
So I have the pleasure of teaching a class with the CEO, the manager, the short-term rental manager, Ulrich Binzer. Binzer, or is it Binzer? I always get that one messed up. But he knows who he is. But end of the day, the purpose of that course is going to be just on educating people on the evolution of short-term rentals, what jurisdictions can do. I'm also going to do a case study on short-term rentals in the previous jurisdiction I was in, which is the city of Garden Grove. We had a complete ban on that jurisdiction, and we're going to explain how it was formulated, and then Ulrich's going to go on and give statistics and case law and a lot of good stuff about short-term rentals. So now, can you tell me about the software that you're here?
Absolutely. So we are working with everybody, all different types of jurisdictions, small cities, large cities, counties, over 100 customers in California. So really exciting to be here and get to actually meet some people in person, in real life for the first time. But it's everything from, some jurisdictions who have a ban in place and are looking to just identify exactly where those short-term rentals are so they can then go after them and get them in compliance. We work with some planning departments as well who are trying to get an ordinance in place. We work with code enforcement, obviously, for the ongoing compliance monitoring and just making sure that those short-term rental properties are permitted appropriately, following the ordinance. And then the finance side as well, collecting taxes from those short-term rentals is really important. And sometimes people open, a short-term rental, an Airbnb or VRBO, and don't really assume the tax implications of that. And so are not necessarily paying taxes that they should be. But it's just like the traditional lodging industry, a hotel or motel, and they need to be paying a lodging tax or transient occupancy tax as well. So our software helps you cover all of those different things. So it's an a la carte solution that is either, you can get just the one module to identify those addresses or the full suite.
And one of the things that, in my previous jurisdiction, we actually had Granicus, and they actually set up a phone call line where they had somebody 24/7 to assist us. Can you tell us a little bit how that works?
Yeah, there's a 24/7 hotline and web portal that we can put into place as well, so that, if there are issues with short-term rentals, they can be a very divisive issue for a lot of jurisdictions. People either love them, or maybe you're living next to one and you hate them. But if you have issues with short-term rentals, whether that's, illegal parking, trash out at the wrong time, party issues, people trespassing on your property, you need a way to actually complain about that, provide evidence and documentation. So we have the short-term rental hotline so that you can call in 24 hours a day, or use the web form and actually upload some of that documentation. So you can upload pictures or videos, just to really help the code enforcement side go after those properties for breaking the ordinance or breaking the law.
Yeah, that's really wonderful, because as you know, when we're out there, different departments in code enforcement trying to set up short-term rental policy, ordinances, enforcement, it becomes a little tedious because you're looking at every little moving part and trying to make sure that you're not forgetting something. So that's great information that you're sharing. And I like your shirt.
Thank you very much, Granicus. Here we go.
It looks like a very old school shirt. I'm like, I need that shirt.
I like it.
Try to get me to wear a mask, but it's not really being pushed here. So we're like, big G.
Got some good Granicus masks over there that are this really nice athletic material. It's great.
Hey, Pete, you're going to have to grab some for me so I can get them from you next in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So one of the things that we also did with Granicus, we had a webinar with Mr. Friedman the other day.
Jeffrey
Friedman,
yeah.
yes. Yeah, and we basically talked about forming ordinances and what different jurisdictions need to do in order to take in consideration when creating these ordinances, because what we learned was that many cities just copy and paste people's ordinances, and it's not a one size fits all kind of approach. So somebody has to come in and actually look at your ordinance and work on it and decide what the right fit is for you.
And Jeffrey's great. He goes through everything on those calls. So we set up an hour-long call with our current customers, with potential customers, just about what some of those best practices are, what they look like. And it's everything from the upstream, what he calls upstream issues, to downstream issues. And upstream issues would be, zoning wise, preventing short-term rentals in some parts of the jurisdiction, but allowing them in others. And then again, those downstream issues like parking issues, trash collection issues, and then the party houses. So everything, and trying to figure out what your main priority is, and then crafting your ordinance from there.
And then one of the things that you'll love is, when you get these phone calls, you actually record these phone calls, and they are hilarious.
So good. Oh my goodness.
You get some good phone calls. There
are some messages that go around through the company Slack where we'll say, like, you have to go listen to this complaint that just came in about this property. They are truly,
they're unique.
Sounds like some of them sound like a good place to be, fun and entertaining place to be. Some of them are just absolutely wild. People are using the wrong dock and are falling off the dock, and they're concerned about safety.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, people are having a party, and the party next door is interrupting their party. It's just classic calls. I mean, us the code enforcement, we get these.
They're upstaging. They're upstaging them.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I think over the last year, when I was using Granicus, I think I had a good collection of audio files. I mean, I try to save the best, my best collection out there for teaching material. The ones like, oh, I'm gonna sue you and your dog, but these short-term rental ones are classic. So, but thank you for joining us. And,
yeah, absolutely.
We really appreciate your time. Anything else you want to ask, Ms. Muela?
Yes, don't forget to go get my Granicus masks.
Oh, we are right across the way, so I can absolutely get you a mask. I'll send him home with a few.
Yeah,
thank you. And thank you so much thank you so much for that great info. I know I was looking and researching, and it became really helpful for me because we're working on our short-term rental policy right now. So thank you so much for that info.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I am here to help. I'll be here all week. So if there are any questions, feel free to send them my way.
You got it. Thanks.
Awesome. Very nice to meet you.
So right now people are scrounging along, so we're going to, can you grab Amanda real quick?
Camera's going to shut off, Pete.
Who's mine? Or mine?
Yep, yours.
Okay, hold on. Oh, there it goes. And now we have Miss Amanda.
Oh,
Pope
Miss
from Jones and Mayo.
Amanda.
Hi there.
So she's our returning champion here at Code Network. Amanda was previously here to talk about receiverships.
Yes.
Her and her cohorts are here. The prosecutor portion of it, the receivership portion of it. And is there another portion?
No, I'm the director of city receiverships at Jones and Mayo. So I just do receiverships for city clients all throughout the state of California.
Since you weren't on the receivership one, so Amanda could give us a quick rundown on what it is that she does. She shared it with Rachel, you on the other show. So can you, do you have any questions on receivership before she?
I have all kinds of questions.
I love questions.
Let's hook it up.
All kinds of questions. Okay, so let's start. I think one of the questions that I had asked before was, when we have property that has a second interest by means of the state of California, how do we maneuver through receiverships when there's a second interest on that property?
So by state of California liens, do you mean like FTB liens or property tax liens?
Yeah.
So that is not an impediment to a receivership. Those would get paid. They do get paid first, though. So if you have a property like that, the most important thing to do is before you file your case or even accept the case, you do an analysis to determine what the value of the property is going to be, what the costs are going to be, and are you going to be able to pay those off. And another thing you can do, and I do this often, is where you reach out to the state, or I've done this even with the IRS, where you reach out to them and you negotiate those ahead of time to see if they'll take less. Because if you think about it, right now I have a property where the IRS has like $115,000 tax lien that's just been sitting there for years, right? Well, they know that the owner's never going to sell the property, right? But if the receivership results in the sale of the property, they're likely to get something, right? They may not get the whole amount if they're willing to negotiate it down, but they're going to get it as opposed to just sitting on lien on title forever. Right. And then, as another government entity, they're often strangely supportive of what we're trying to do, right? They understand that we're trying to clear blight and we're trying to increase, property values for the neighborhood and for the city. And it can be a long upfront process to try and do that. But sometimes the property values are high enough where you don't even have to worry about that. That you look at the property and you say, okay, in a fully rehabbed sale at the end of the case, we're going to have enough money to pay off whatever liens are on title, pay the receiver, pay the city. And then only those liens, only government liens have automatic priority. So if there's like a bank lien, that all gets paid later. So you don't have to worry about that in the same way that you have to worry about a government lien.
Wow, wonderful. That's really helpful to understand, because as we maneuver through receivership, sometimes you don't know all of those tidbits. And so if I can make a recommendation, work with your attorney, such as Amanda, get all those questions answered, get it, locked down and written up and all that, what I like to call airtight case, right?
Yes.
Ready to go, so that it makes it easier. Amanda, can you also tell us the different types of receiverships that you've seen when it relates to code enforcement?
Yes. So they kind of run the gamut. You have very typical, let's say, vacant and abandoned property. That's a common one, right? They can be fire damaged properties, a lot of hoarder properties. People that either can't help themselves, are either, unwilling or unable to comply with the law. And the receivership can be a really effective tool to maybe get them the help they need. You can do multi-tenant properties. So you can do apartment complexes, illegal construction. A lot of times code officers will ask me like, well, the house doesn't actually look that bad from the outside, right? They may have some violations, but it doesn't look that bad. And so that doesn't necessarily matter, right? Because we all know sometimes in illegal addition, an illegal garage conversion, like the photos don't always look bad, right? Or from the street, it doesn't always look bad, but that doesn't mean it's safe, right?
Right.
So I actually had a hearing yesterday. We have a multi-unit apartment unit that the owner turned 8 or 9 units into 17 units illegally.
Oh my goodness.
And their attorney's arguing, well, yeah, maybe some electrical stuff, but it doesn't really look that bad. The tenants, they always say this, right? The tenants aren't complaining. What's the city care so much? And so what I said to the judge is, look, these were illegally constructed. So we don't know what dangers lurk behind, we know it's not safe for people to live in illegally constructed units because we can't verify, the city can't verify if they've met code, if they have the proper, requirements. And just because someone's not complaining doesn't mean that it's legal, right? You can have people living in illegal places and still not complain to the city.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, can you imagine if we all had X-ray vision? We wouldn't be around, right? We'd know exactly what we needed every single time. But those are very valid points that a lot of the times it's missed on the receiving end. That we can't see through cavities of walls. We can't look at that electrical to see if it was connected or installed properly, or plumbing or mechanical. So very valid point. Great info.
Right. Any other specific questions? Any hangups? It sounds like you're very familiar with receiverships in general.
Yeah. So I had actually a great opportunity to work with the city of Oakland as well. And so the city of Oakland actually had taken on a couple of receiverships towards the tail end of my tenure there. But I know that it's always an uphill battle when you don't quite understand how those could positively impact your community, by taking on a receivership action versus drawing out a code case for a very, very long time and then having the neighbors be upset because nothing's being done. Can you talk about injunctive relief?
Yes. So I can back up a bit and explain. To get a receiver appointed, it's a very specific procedural statute, right? It's under the Health and Safety Code. There's a lot of things you have to prove. And one of, those things is essentially have to prove substandard, substantially dangerous building, right? So does it have all these very particular violations that would allow for the court to say, okay, you've met these requirements, let's appoint a receiver. So sometimes a property is not quite there, right? It's got other public nuisance violations. And so instead of initiating a health and safety code receivership case, you can initiate what's called like a public nuisance abatement case. So what you're saying to the court is this property is a public nuisance. We don't know if it necessarily falls under the health and safety code receivership laws, but it violates all these other laws, right? The municipal code, the government code, it's injurious to health, right? Here's all the violations. In a public nuisance case, you go in and you say to the court, we want an injunction. An injunction is essentially just a court order to tell someone to either do something or stop doing something. So in the context of a public nuisance case for a city, what that order looks like is the judge would say, okay, these violations exist, and now I'm ordering you to stop maintaining the property in violation of the law. Essentially, it's a way to tell someone to clean up your property. And if you don't, then we can appoint a receiver to enforce the order. So you get the court order that says, you have X amount of time to clean up these things or stop violating the law. And if the owner doesn't comply, then you can go back into court and say, okay, they didn't comply with the court order. They're in contempt of court. We want a receiver to come in and enforce that order. And then the receiver, it's just a different code section under the California law that you get that receiver appointed. But it's effectively the same result. The receiver comes in at the end of the day, does the work that needs to be done, and then likely will sell the property and the case is over. It's a longer and generally more expensive process than a receivership because now you're in general litigation, and everyone knows that litigation's expensive. Receiverships are just a lot faster, but that is a route to go if you can't quite meet the receivership standard.
Wonderful. And so I've seen, for example, injunctive relief used with a property owner who has multiple properties, in some cases, multiple multifamily properties that are in substandard state. Can you talk a little bit about how that might get coupled into one injunctive relief case, or is it individual ones, or how does that work?
Yeah, what you can do, and you can actually do this with receiverships too, is you can take, if you have an owner, like let's say a slumlord, let's be honest, right? If you have a slumlord who has multiple properties, you can file them all as one case, and then you just separate out the evidence for those properties. So you talk about you describe the property specifically, you do the APN ends. And then in declarations in support of your legal case, you can just break out the properties and say, like, here's the violations on this property, here's the violations on this property, but they're all similar violations. They're all similar violations of law. And obviously it's the same owner, the same person who would be responsible. The one thing you do have to be careful about, though, is especially in a receivership case, you have to name everyone with an interest in the property. So if property A had, let's say Wells Fargo has a mortgage on property A, but not on property B, you can still put them in the same case. You just need to make it clear that Wells Fargo's interest is only going to be affected as to, property A. So there's a few, technicalities, but yes, you can definitely do it all as one case. And I think courts in general, especially right now, being a little backlogged with the COVID caseloads, I think courts would appreciate the efficiency of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's really great to hear, because we oftentimes, especially in larger cities, we'll see one particular owner own a multitude of properties, all in disarray, deferred maintenance, you name it. And here we are coming in trying to, change and improve the quality of life. But there's so many properties that it almost becomes hit and miss with, getting the property owner to be responsive. But I really like what you explained as far as the injunctive relief for those that are watching, being able to provide not only a stop creating a substandard, but also take care of that substandard. Get it done by means of whatever it is that you need to do to improve the quality of life in units. So I think that it's good to know and to be in the know. And Amanda, if you could share your contact information for anybody out there that wishes to get in contact with you to know a little bit more about those procedures, that'd be awesome.
Yes, I'd be happy to. Again, my name's Amanda Pope. I'm the director of city receiverships at a law firm called Jones & Mayer. We service the entire state of California, so check out our website. But if you want to contact me directly, my email address is aap, as in Pope, at jones-mayer.com. And that's the fastest way to get a hold of me.
Awesome. Thank you.
She had a lot of great info, and this is more California based, because I know we have audience from all over the country, and and that may not be applicable, but in California, this is it. I mean, she's good. That's why she's on her show.
Well, thanks, Pete.
Yeah, and so we're right here sharing war stories with different vendors, and we had some good hoarder stories.
I was going to say, yeah.
I'm talking about my army crawl back in the city of Bellflower, going through bed paths of poop mortar. So it was pretty interesting. Everybody we had a one up, because that's how we are.
Yes.
Code enforcement.
Yes. You just can't we'd always just say, my very first boss I ever worked for said, you can't make this up. You go into these houses and you think you've seen it all by now. I've been doing this over 10 years. You property inspections and receiverships in particular. And I'm continually surprised by what I see.
Right, absolutely. I was in the beautiful state of Washington last month, and one of the questions that I always ask when I'm presenting is, has anybody seen the show Hoarders.com with Corey, right? And they're like, yeah, we have. And I said, that is our life every day. That is who we do and what we do every single day. And it really brings perspective. But to your point, Amanda, just when you thought you've seen it all, something else comes out of the blue and hits you from left field. And so, it's definitely interesting, the job that we do. But, the overall and end goal is always to promote, healthy housing across the state. So we are very thankful for you.
Well, thank you. And that's the nice thing about the remedy itself. A health and safety code receivership is a very effective remedy to address like a multitude of violations. So it's kind of a blanket remedy that you can put over all sorts of violations. So thank you for having me. This has been lovely.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
And again, you can reach her at AAP at jones-mayer.com.
Yes.
Yeah. So we're going to be waiting for our next guest. So
yeah. Do you want me to go get your next guest?
Yeah, sure.
All right.
Cool. Awesome.
Bye, Amanda.
Thank you.
Likewise.
So there is a lot of vendors here, that a lot of people with great info. And here comes Miss Betsy with your Granicus mask.
Yay!
I know this one already, so give me that.
There you go.
So this is your mask. Put it over here. And we're over here, and we also have, let me see, the standards and codes teams right here. So we have these Go Home Safe stickers that we're giving out. And we
Right
also have this lovely pin.
Get
that you
your
wear.
lapel pins. Get your
Lapel
lapel
pin.
pins, y'all.
Yeah, they'll be available at Ace also. So the standards and crew. I know. Right now they're in the session, so they're somewhere walking around right here. So, and that's been a pretty interesting first day. All my swag is gone. So we were giving out these nice books where
Very cool.
your notebooks. I figured that's useful. We ordered the ring lights for the cell phone, so you can take more.
For the selfies, for the podcasts and the
We have your
interviews.
lovely four-leaf lanyards.
So this is the part for all of our guests that are watching. This is the part where Pete's given his marketing swag of 4-leaf. Check out the cool stuff, the cool gadgets. Come and check out 4-leaf. And I even wore my 4-leaf green. See?
Yeah.
4-leaf green.
Yeah. So here we have a managing partner at Standards and Codes Academy. This is Mr. Greg Smith with GMS Presentations, and he. So what's going on, Greg?
Good. I'm good. Good to see you, Cecilia.
Good morning.
Good morning. Just here at the California Association of Code Enforcement Officers annual seminar. This is kind of a coming home for me. I worked my first jobs in code enforcement in Southern California, and so I'd love to come back here when I can and meet with the people that I grew up in code with, and then meet some new people. I'll be teaching tomorrow and Thursday.
What are you teaching?
Teaching hoarding, how to deal with hoarding, and then case documentation on Thursday.
So can you give us a sneak peek on your hoarding class?
Oh boy,
It's a sneak peek.
It's always an interesting sneak peek when you talk about hoarding. But I go through, obviously, I've been in the code enforcement realm for about 20 plus years, and talk about cases that I've worked, and also some methods and methodology and best practices on how to deal with hoarding cases, including the harm reduction method. We go over some forms and stuff, and a little history about hoarding, and then go through some of the symptoms that people encounter.
Yeah. Do you do some war stories in your class?
Oh yeah, it starts off with a war story right off the bat.
Stuff.
Hoarding classes are the best when you share pictures. So.
Yeah. So our last guest, Amanda, because she deals with a lot of receivership with hoarding.
Yes.
So we were exchanging nice war stories here and
Yeah.
there. So they get interesting.
They get very interesting.
So folks that don't know, there's cat hoarders, there's newspaper hoarders, and book hoarders. There's trash hoarders.
Collectibles.
Metal hoarders,
Yep,
collectibles.
yep.
Yeah, there's so many. Yeah.
And the important thing to understand is that hoarding, as Greg is going to be teaching in his class, it's a mental health illness. It is protected by ADA, so it is a recognized disability. And even though we have some crazy stories that Greg's going to share with y'all regarding what he's seen and what he's maneuvered through. At the end of the day, it's the impacts, not just on the dwelling unit in the neighborhood, but also the impacts on the person and how that person is relating to and how they're connecting to the items that they're hoarding. So Greg, can you give us like a quick little sneak peek of your class?
Yeah, very much so. I thank you for talking about the mental health portion. When I first created this class 5 or 6 years ago, I attended numerous hoarding trainings, and what was kind of missing from them was talking about the mental health portion. So the biggest focus during the class is on the mental health portion of the disorder, and talking about how we've all in communication classes heard, like, when you talk to somebody, there's always something going on with them, and you need to be respectful and empathetic towards that. And with people with hoarding disorder, there is 110% something going on with them. So it's about recognizing all those tells, the things they might tell you in their stories about how these things might have come to be, and respecting them, and that the mental health portion, and being empathetic that this isn't going to be a case where you're going to get easy compliance. And you might not even get compliance that you would consider for yourself and in your silo compliance that you would live in. So it's about breaking out of those silos, realizing that the mental health portion is the biggest part of it, and using the basic skills and the best practices, harm reduction method, to try to get through these cases as easy as possible, knowing that they are some of the most difficult cases you might ever encounter.
You hit on a great point, Greg. And I've had the pleasure of working with Greg and hearing his awesome classes and presentations. He has such great material. But one of the very important things that he just said was empathy. And in code enforcement, we're always told you have to be empathetic and sympathetic, but there's a direct difference between being sympathetic and empathetic. And like Greg said, is being empathetic, being able to put ourselves in the shoes of the person that's going through these traumas, right? This mental health, the things that they're dealing with, to truly understand and get the real essence of what it is that they're trying to share with us, so that we can be able to maneuver through that case and be able to get them to compliance. But it's really important for us to be able to dive in, as Greg said, really listen to hear what they're saying.
Absolutely. Like you said, she said, it is the basis of what code enforcement should be, is an empathetic approach to compliance. And with hoarding, that comes out, tenfold. Because if you come at it, and no judgments, I'd say that in my class, no judgments on how anybody approaches a hoarding case. There are things we just have to do sometimes. But if you do approach it from that strict enforcement and short timeline deadline kind of approach, it usually doesn't really work very well. So I do teach that if you have the opportunity to approach it from the empathetic approach and get the resources, mental health and organization and all those things to it, that you're on a better path and you're more likely to have success.
And if somebody needs that training, where can we go for the training?
Yeah, absolutely. So my company is GMS Presentations and Training, www.gmspresentationsandtraining.com. You can also go to the Standards and Codes Academy, www.standardsandcodesacademy.com. And I do offer those online throughout the year. Right now it's kind of my traveling time, so I'm going to be here. This week I'll be at the American Association of Code Enforcement in 2 weeks, and then in Kansas for the Kansas Association of Code Enforcement in 3 weeks or something like that. So, but I do offer those online, and I do offer specialty classes for jurisdictions if that's what they need.
And what's the next class? You're teaching 2 classes, right?
2 classes.
The other class, what?
Case documentation and evidence, which is heavily tied to hoarding cases, because as code enforcement officers, we know we have to document everything we do in great detail, because every case may go to court. And in a hoarding case, it couldn't be more important, because you're going to deal with statements by the person, you're going to deal with statements by a family member. Pictures are going to be everything in a hoarding case, because you may have to show those to your city councilor or a hearing officer or a court officer. So we talk about in that class how to properly document things. We kind of go through the whole entire city process of those things, and how to write a good report, make sure all the evidence is in there, no opinion, no emotion, just the facts, ma'am. So we deal with all that stuff in that class.
So you say in 2 weeks you're going to be at ACE. I'm going to be at ACE too, so stop by and visit. We have a 4-leaf table with standards and codes table. Cecilia, you're going to be teaching there as well. So what are you teaching, Greg?
I'm teaching officer safety at ACE. I have to think about these things. They're coming fast and furious. But I'll be teaching officer safety to the entire attendance the first day of ACE. That is obviously heavily focused on going home safe. So we have a little sticker here, Standards and Codes Academy. Going home safe is the mantra, and doing everything you can from the moment you wake up to the moment you go to sleep in your personal life and in your professional life to go home safe to your family or to your loved ones or to your pets or whatever it is that you find drives you to survive. And we talk about that in great detail, talk about some of the physical aspects. We talk about how to approach properties, all those things that go into code enforcement and officer safety.
Any other classes? You're teaching housing inspections.
And housing inspections. Thank you for remembering these things.
I made the flyer, so.
I do teach a housing inspections 101 course that is focused on the IPMC, the International Property Maintenance Code, and we go through how to apply the property maintenance code to rental housing inspections. I was just talking to a gentleman from Sacramento, and one of the big differences coming from California to the Midwest was I never had done rental inspections or worked in a jurisdiction that had that. Heavily in the Midwest, there are rental inspection programs, which my jurisdiction does have, and it's a different kind of code enforcement than standardized code enforcement is. And it's the class I teach, Housing Inspection 101, goes through from beginning to end, from the beginning of the inspection to writing up the report to all the weird stuff you might find in a property, and even some legal stuff covered in there too.
And Cecilia, you're teaching courses at ACE. So what are you teaching at ACE?
Ooh, I get the fun ones. Just kidding. They're all fun. So I'm teaching mold and how to maneuver through mold enforcement, what to look for. We're going to have some model policy and procedures, as well as going through some of the reports that we get and understanding how we process those reports, being that we're not mycology or professionals. But in addition to that, I'm going to be teaching on bed bugs. So bed bugs is awesome. And I have a special treat. I have a little bed bug sample to show everyone. So that'll
you
be
do.
fun.
You're horrible.
Yeah.
They're amazing.
You know what's funny? Like you taught that in Vegas one time. I remember, and you brought the vials, and I think somebody tried to steal one of your vials.
They did. They tried to take it. Like, let me have it. I'm like, no, those are mine. They were a little worried, but it's always fun when you ask who checked their bed last night, and they're like, oh no, I didn't. So it's cool. It's a good 2 cool classes. I'm excited to be there as well with y'all. So it'll be fun.
Yeah, and what's going on with standards and codes?
Standards and codes right now, we are still working on a in-person conference in Austin, Texas next May. We're still going through the motions of that, talking with Austin and hopefully getting that going within the next, I'd say, month. We're really excited to hopefully put together this 2.5-day program in Austin, Texas, on the ground, just like we are here. Yeah, it's really something we've wanted to do since the beginning, and we're hoping that'll still come to fruition. So.
And also, you have Kansas coming up.
Yep, and Kansas, yeah.
Where's it's in Manhattan, Kansas.
Manhattan, Kansas.
And,
first week in November. Teaching myself and Marcus Kellum, who's with Metric One and Standards and Codes Academy, and also Kelvin Bean with Code Performance Consultants.
Yes.
Thank you. I had to think through that one. All 3 of us will be there in Kansas teaching for their association at their annual conference, and we're really excited for that. I've never been to Kansas and taught for those folks, so
yeah.
It's very fun.
And Standards and Codes just did the Florida Association a couple months ago, where they hosted the whole conference. So that one wrapped up. It was very fun and
that was a good time.
Good stuff going on and they will be at ACE. They will have a table at ACE.
Yep, we'll have a table at ACE.
Full, so you can get some pins if you are online and since you can't travel down to here in California. So again, here's some pins that for your lapel. Very nice pins. Anything else?
No, I appreciate you having me on.
No, Greg, you're always welcome.
Yeah, this has been great, Cecilia. It's been great seeing you, even virtually. So,
yes.
Yeah, remember the mantra: go home safe.
Go home safe, y'all.
Everybody, be careful, and it's been a pleasure. So
awesome, cool. Thank you.
Yeah, take it
All
easy.
right.
Have a great time.
Well, that pretty much that's close to an hour or so. I mean, we have a lot of guests, and everybody's in the classroom, so everybody's getting out to come talk to us. So, so it's awesome. Wish you were here. It's California's not California without Cecilia. So, all right. Well, everybody, thank you for joining us, and we will see you next time. Bye. I think Cecilia froze.